The air inside Executive Conference Room 2200 smells permanently of three things: $100 a pound small batch Ethiopian espresso, custom-tailored Italian wool suits, and pure, concentrated human panic. High above the Dallas skyline on a humid Tuesday morning, 34-year-old Chief Human Resources Officer Victoria Vance slid custom-engraved iPads across the mahogany table. On the screens flashed the minimalist crimson logo of Project Omnipulse. She was about to sell the C-suite on an automated governance system designed to track keystrokes, calendar density, and Slack response latency. But Omnipulse was never built to optimize productivity. It was built as a precision-guided warhead to decapitate operational rivals before third-quarter bonus reviews.
Oh boy, that sounds chilling. Pure corporate backstabbing wrapped up in a sleek slide deck.
Exactly. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I am Dr. Zara Sterling.
And I am Simon Carver. Before we dive into this absolute wild story of corporate warfare, make sure to hit that like button, share this episode with your colleagues, and subscribe wherever you listen. It really helps us bring you these deep dives.
And I am Emily Culver. And honestly, looking at this OmniGlobal story, it is the ultimate example of what we deal with in Club Genius. Common sense completely throwing hands with corporate nonsense.
So, Zara, setting this up, Victoria Vance brings in this synergy index, right? And sitting across from her is Dave Miller, 23 years at the company, vice president of infrastructure. Chipped mug, drip coffee, a guy who has survived 7 rebrandings.
Yes. Dave knew instantly what Victoria was doing. She pitched Omnipulse as a way to quietly eliminate quiet quitters and low performers. But Dave immediately called out the flaw. He told her straight out, "My principal engineers do not sit there slamming keys like data entry clerks. They spend 3 days staring at a whiteboard, thinking through architectural bottlenecks before writing 50 lines of Rust code that keep our global supply chain from collapsing."
50 lines of code. That is the part executives constantly miss. High-value deep work looks completely identical to total non-productivity on a telemetry dashboard.
From an organizational psychology standpoint, what Victoria was doing is classic bureaucratic weaponization. When power is measured by floor elevation and proximity to room 2200, executives search for objective metrics to mask deeply subjective political attacks. By framing the algorithm as neutral, she forced Dave into a trap. If he opposed the rollout, he looked defensive and obsolete.
It is ruthless. You replace actual leadership with an automated surveillance engine and call it governance.
Right after that breakfast, Dave panicked. At 2 p.m., he dragged his principal staff systems architect, Arthur Pendleton, into a basement conference room. Dave demanded that Arthur code an administrative backdoor override into Module 7 auto exit, which was the automated firing script inside Omnipulse.
Wait, Arthur warned him, didn't he? You do not put backdoors into automated security revokers.
He did. Arthur warned him explicitly that any manual override outside the formal authentication path would be flagged as an internal credential breach. But Dave snapped. He said, "Victoria is auditing my Jira queue every 48 hours. Write the code. Make sure we survive the quarter."
And so the whole 14th floor just went completely radioactive by October, right?
Absolute dystopian theatre. Managers realized their communication alignment scores were dropping, so they started leaving rival team leads off email threads to ruin their network density telemetry. Engineers went out and bought hardware mouse jigglers online.
mouse jigglers, and product managers scheduling fake 4-hour recurring meetings with themselves on Google Calendar just to artificially inflate their focus density metrics. Nobody went to lunch because leaving your desk for 40 minutes dropped your rolling 3-week score below the fatal threshold.
What you are describing is Goodhart's law in full effect. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Surveillance destroys authentic productivity because employees reallocate their cognitive energy from solving real business problems to manipulating the tracking mechanisms.
Meanwhile, Victoria's up in room 2200 showing laser pointer slides to the CEO, bragging that OmniPulse executed 412 low-synergy entities with 0 human HR hours and 0 emotional friction. But then she pointed directly at Arthur Pendleton's 0 Slack activity, calling his unmonitored tribal knowledge a structural liability.
Which leads to the setup for catastrophe. The multi-billion-dollar Frankfurt mainframe cloud migration was coming up. Dave told Arthur to go complete air-gap isolation inside subterranean Data Vault B for 3 consecutive weeks. No internet, no Slack, no badge swipes at the turnstiles. Dave logged a formal location exception request in Victoria's HR portal.
Except Victoria's team had quietly updated the exception portal 2 weeks earlier to save money. They routed technical overrides to an automated queue that automatically rejected anything needing manual review. Dave's ticket was silently dumped into an unmonitored null database table.
So to the algorithm, Arthur didn't go save the company. He just vanished.
For 21 days, Arthur worked in the cold darkness of Data Vault B, saving the company an estimated $14 million in potential cloud overages. On day 21, at exactly 8 a.m., Module 7 auto-exit executed with perfect precision. When Arthur walked up to the lobby turnstiles, red lights flashed, sirens sounded, and heavy steel security grills slammed down from the ceiling.
Armed guards stripped him of his pass, handed him his dead desk plant in a damp box, and kicked him out to the curb by the dumpsters.
Dave stormed up to room 2200, screaming that Victoria had just executed the principal architect mid-migration. Victoria just calmly dabbed her spilled matcha latte and said Arthur's rolling synergy index fell to minus 14.2. The machine has spoken. Reinstating him would expose the firm to litigation.
So Dave runs back to his desk, uses his VP superuser privileges, and types a manual SQL command to force reinstate Arthur's account. And what happened?
The monitor flashes crimson. Security violation detected. Miller_D assigned mandatory 4-hour remedial e-learning. Understanding algorithmic integrity and executive compliance.
The software stripped a vice president of his admin rights and sent him to corporate re-education camp for trying to fix his own department.
And then the cascade hit. Because Arthur was purged mid-migration, the cryptographic master key stored in his profile was wiped. Within 3 days, 1,800 pharmaceutical shipping containers were locked in Rotterdam. Singapore's fulfillment gateway collapsed into a 12-mile truck traffic jam. Stock dropped 8.4%.
The CEO loses his mind in room 2200, screaming at Victoria, "Where is Arthur Pendleton?" Dave is sitting there with his arms crossed saying, "I can't help you. I am currently locked out completing my 4-hour compliance training."
They find Arthur sitting by his pool in Scottsdale in a Hawaiian shirt drinking iced tea. Dave and the CIO literally beg him on their knees. Arthur reminds them his social security number is hard blacklisted in Module 7 because he wrote that immutable script himself. But he offers a solution.
Ghost in the Machine Consulting, LLC. $5,000 an hour. 80-hour minimum retainer up front, plus a notarized apology letter signed by Victoria Vance, delivered to his front door.
Wire transfer goes through in 12 minutes. Next morning, Arthur walks in wearing flip-flops. Dave holds the glass door open like a valet. Victoria is packing her desk into a cardboard box, while OmniPulse flashes dark crimson on her screen. Arthur sits at a basement terminal, types 3 simple commands in 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and collects $400,000.
What this whole saga illustrates so powerfully is that corporate governance failures are almost never technical failures. They are political assassinations wrapped in bureaucratic jargon. When leadership uses AI systems to measure activity instead of real output, they aren't protecting the enterprise. They are installing a guillotine in their own building and handing the execution lever to their worst internal rivals.
That is the classic Club Genius takeaway right there. If nobody can explain why a process exists, question the process. And if everyone is adding layers of automated metrics, look for the person actually doing the deep work before you turn off their badge.
Man, what an incredible lesson in surviving the modern workplace. How many of us have seen managers optimize for green status lights while the actual building is on fire?
It happens every single day across corporate boardrooms. True operational resilience requires human judgment, trust, and the space for deep concentration that no dashboard can accurately capture.
Well said, Zara. That brings us to the end of today's deep dive. If you enjoyed this breakdown of corporate absurdity, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast.
Leave us a comment with your favorite corporate surveillance nightmare story. We would love to hear how you handle common sense versus corporate nonsense in your workplace. Until next time, stay practical out there.